Namaste, Sairam, and welcome to everybody on this Wednesday evening program on practical spirituality. Today, we will again discuss karma and take up the questions. So, as we start the program, please join me with the prayer. O Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to Thee. O Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for Thee. O Lord, take my soul and let it be merged in one with Thee. O Lord, take my mind and thoughts and let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take my everything and let me be an instrument to work for Thee. Welcome all. I feel really honored that so many people have shared their thoughts and questions about the topic which we discussed in the last class, which was on the karma, the mystery of action. And in this episode, I'll be more than happy to discuss certain questions and scenarios based on our presentation of last week. So, as we move forward, let me take you through the concept again, just a refresher, so that we all are on the same page. So, we discussed about karma as a theory and identified difference between the concept of karma and action, whereas it is focused only in doing things, whereas karma has got a much wider implication. It also involves destiny and the fate. And then we looked at how the karma is understood as response and the cause and the effect. So, but karma is also understood from the intent of the action. So this is how we understood a little bit of karma. And then we also dwell into what is good karma and what is bad karma. How do you differentiate between an action which is conducive for our growth and actions which are actually hindering or creating an obstruction in our development and in growth of life? And then in that format, we also looked at the ethical actions and unethical actions. So, which karmas can be attributed as ethical and unethical? And there we understood about the conscious working and consciously aligning our attributes or unconsciously distracting ourselves or consciously distracting. So, that makes the ethical and unethical. And then we also understood about the consequences of karma, how it is understood and relates to us. So one can be fruit of action, and another are the imprints, impulses, which are called samskaras. So that's how karma impacts us and creates this story of life and birth and rebirth and rebirth. And this is based on the concept of sanchit and pralabdha karmas. Sanchit is the accumulated karmas of all the journey of life, and pralabdha is the portion of sanchit which is responsible to give this birth, this one particular birth. That's pralabdha. And then looking at law of karma, we understood that it is law of intent, because the intent which makes the action into an causal effect. Otherwise, the effect, the karma, it can become nishkam karma. So the action which is done without any desire of output, that actually helps us to delineate or negate the impact of karma. And that is how we looked at whether the karmas are only based on physical act, or can it be considered something more than physical. So can the thought be called actions, and how does the thought become an action? Not every passing thought is action. So we also looked at it, that how do we feed our thoughts and make them so strong that they can also start creating our karmic influences. And hence we saw that the Trikarna Shuddhi was required. That is the harmony of thought, word, and deed. When you synchronize this, symphony this, then we arrive at a state of perfect living. And in that way, we saw about revenge. We talked about how do we react in karma. What does karma theory talk about reaction in the way of revenge, or saving your own name and fame or whatever. And from that we understood action based on purpose, not based on revenge, is the key of understanding how do we get out of this issue. So this is how we had looked at. So today we have a good number of questions which have come to me. So I thought, keeping this background, or this what do you call, little recap, so concept in mind, let us discuss about certain questions which have been sent to me, and I also have few of the guests uh, who have accepted my invitation to come and personally share their thoughts and questions with us. So let me start with one question which was sent to me by. I'm trying to put the names, but not to disclose anything. They want to keep it anonymous. It's fine. But Dr. Prakash has sent me one question, and he puts it the aim of life. So when we started, his point was that when the origin of life started, account was nil. So when we talk about a concept of rebirth, it is based on our consequence of our action. So he says, when we started, we had nothing. So, and in the process, we accumulated. Why all this drama at all? How did we start accumulating when we started with a nil account? So I found this question very interesting, because this actually takes us back to the story of origin of how it started. But the problem is very genuine for him, that hey, we started fair, then where did we? What happened that we started accumulating this karmic effects, and today we have to discuss about consequence of karmas, and we are trapped in something which we did not do it consciously. So I just wanted to, I thought this is a good question to start with, because it gives a different perspective to look at the karmic philosophy. If you have attended the program before, I did touch upon the story of creation as explained through our Vedic scriptures. In that, if you understand the first, what we call Big Bang, the concept of, the creation started with a kind of aham tattva, that core attribute. What we call tattva is element. The core element, when it vibrated, it was vibrating with love. And in that frequency of love, there was a kind of expansion, because the attribute of love is expansion. And the first manifestation, or should I say, the first visible impression of that fluctuation, that vibration of the Mahat Tattva, that core element, was our three gunas. The three variations, the three fluctuation which happened, we name them, we tag them as Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So that is the first visible manifestation of that fluctuation which happened. From that attribute of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, the permutation combination of that led into this whole so-called manifested creation. I'm making it very short and simple for this question. So when the manifestation started with Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, if you notice, it's all pure. We are just giving an attribute. Like if a mother is pure love, but when she's scolding, you may say, oh, she's showing Rudra Rupa, or angry face. But doesn't mean that she has changed her attribute. Her core is very love, but the love is expressed either in anger. Sometimes she may cry, sometimes she may laugh, but all that what a mother does is based on love quotient. So the core attribute of Trigunas is Aham Tattva, which is pure love. So the Tattva is love, and the manifested variation of Tattva was given this attribute name as Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. and the permutation ended up in whole creation. Now, if you understand these gunas, and that is where Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains it very beautifully, that these gunas are automatically working. You don't command your hair to grow, it grows in a natural way. You don't tell your heart to beat, it beats naturally. You don't tell the sun to go round, it keeps doing its job. So everything in the nature is actually happening naturally. So as long as we had this understanding and we had this nature of flowing through the nature, then we would have enjoyed the beauty of sattva, rajas, and tamas. And this creation was done for that romance of divine. It was a real divine romance in which you are expressing yourself and you are romancing with yourself. In this divine romance, the problem happened that that independent identity which an image had or a reflection had created, that identity started owning or started believing that I am something. That attachment to that self, that false identification did this whole trick. And then we lost track. And today also the same thing happened. So we are into the consequence of law of karma only because we have a physical human identity. The moment we learn how to alienate ourselves from this physical identity of body consciousness, we are back into the rhythm and we have no law of karma working on it. Then we are not bound by any karma for that matter. And such people who live that life are called Jivan Muktas. They are the liberated souls who live in this life, who perform exactly like you and me, who are, if you look at them or meet them, you will say that they are just like me. They are behaving like me. They live like us. They are married. They are working. They are doing everything what an ordinary person does. But they don't have the boundaries of physicality. They don't have that physical gratification requirement. They do not have the attachment to the physical world. Hence, they are liberated. And once we learn that, then we are back again into the free flow of life. And this whole creation is nothing but a soothing, streamless flow of energy, which is coming out as an expression of love. And that is why when you say that why this karmic effect is only because of the false identification of our own identity. The moment we remove it, it goes. Then everything goes immediately. At the very second it disappears. And you may ask, like, is it easy? Certainly not. That is the whole game of life. And the moment we get that, then things change. So I hope this quick answer would have at least triggered some thoughts and would help you to think further. Another question was from Satya, and it says, if I forgive someone who hurt me or caused me some grief and not confront that person, am I not doing a disservice by allowing the person to continue the mistake? Wow, that's a very lofty question. And it says that, by correcting somebody or trying to intervene with somebody, the person is actually helping the other person. That's a very interesting thought. In that, I would think personally that, first we have to understand the concept of service. I have discussed that also before, but it's good to revise. See, service, when we think of service per se, we have to keep in mind that service is not to others. The concept of service is for our own redemption, our own growth, and our own betterment. So the moment I say I'm going to help others, there is an element of ego. It is not service. It may be a start of an activity which we call service, but the real seva or service starts when you forget that you are helping anybody. And that act of self redemption becomes a help to others, and the world will call it service. But the moment I dignify, I label it as service, then I am no longer in service. So when I look at it that way, so if somebody is hurting me, as I said before, in law of karma philosophy, it very beautifully explains that whatever happens to us is based on our own self. That is the first premise which all of us have to accept, that in life, whatever happens to me is only because of me. If somebody comes and abuses me, it is because of me and not because of that person. So that is the first premise which we have to accept, because it's a reaction of what has happened, and only that is coming back to me. Now, that particular person or an event or a thing is an instrument to give me back what I really deserved as a consequence of my own action. So, if somebody comes and abuses me, as the person is saying, or hurt me, it is because I needed to get hurt, or I need to experience that grief. So that person is an instrument to give me that grief. So which means if I have to react to that situation, I do not react to the person in retaliation or in vengeance or in kind of revenge. I'm not reacting because he hurt me. If at all I react, I will react so that that thing I will accept first. See, first point is I have to accept that there is something, that is why it has come to me. Now, it may not be come to me just for my own redemption. It could have come to me because I am capable enough to fight it out and resolve it for many other people. Suppose he's a bully who has been bothering everybody and now is bothering me. So the reason could also be that I am capable enough to fight the bully, so I may. But my attitude, that's why I even presented that law of karma is law of intent. So my attitude is not for revenge because he hurt me. My attitude is, okay, if he's bullying everybody, then I must put a stop to bullying, because God has given me the ability to put a stop to this. So my reaction may be similar from an external look, that he also reacted. But the difference between my reaction is that I am not reacting because he did that to me, but because he is doing to everybody, and because he needs to be stopped so that others do not get abused and bullied like that. And then my action is justified as per law of karma. But the moment I think of it as my personal revenge because he hurt me, then I am inviting the consequence of my action. Hope this helps. If anybody wants to share something on that, you're more than welcome. So I'm just sharing it from the perspective of law of karma. What are some of reminders to overcome past karma? This has been asked by a few more people. There's one question of similar thing was that we don't remember our past lives, and most of the karmic philosophies tell you that you are getting born because you did something in the past life. So which is a very crazy thing to think of, that hey, I don't know what the hell I did in my life, and today I'm suffering because of that. But I tell you, it is sometimes, if you think about it, it's a blessing to not remember our past lives. It's not easy to live with memories. There is a very beautiful story of from Raja Janak's time. It was far later in his life. Raja Janak got this thought that what was my past life? Who was I? It just bugged him, and he called his guru, and his guru was Ashtavakra. If you would have heard the story of Ashtavakra, he was a person with 8 deformities in his body. Hence, his name was Ashtavakra. He was a great enlightened soul. He was a Jivan Mutta in real sense. So he goes to the master and he says, Guruji, tell me, I want to know my past life. So Ashtavakra Guru tries to, you know, distract him and tell him, don't worry, it's not important, just be in the present. But he kept insisting. He said, I don't know why it is bothering me. I need to know. Please enlighten me. And ultimately, Ashtavakra says to him, okay. And Janaka himself was a great rishi, He was a great person who was designated as Raj Rishi. Even though he was a king, he had no attachment with anything, no physical attachment. And that is why he was even designated as Raj Rishi, the Rishi of kings. He was a very enlightened man himself. But imagine he had this question in his heart that what is my past life that I've become this and what. So Ashtavakra ultimately gives up and says, okay, if you are ready to listen, I will tell you. But be ready for the consequence of that answer. And Janak always bows down his head and accepts. He said, yes, master. And Ashtavakra starts telling about his past and then ultimately tells him, Janak, your mother was your wife in the last life. The moment Janak hears that, he is so heartbroken, he's shattered. And he feels so guilt inside his heart. He said, what? And at that very moment, he renounces everything. We may say that he was already ready for that. But that one discovery changed Janak's life. And he left everything at that very moment. He could not even look at his wife nor his mother. He just left. That was too much a revolution for him. See, past life consequences is an accumulation of things. And if we remember, it becomes so difficult to live an unbiased, unjudgmental life. Because we are not ripe enough to face the situation, we'll get biased, we'll get influenced in our action. Even our present will get influenced. And our mythologies tell us that only Lord Shiva had the capacity to know the past, present, and future in present and still conduct unbiased, unrelated. Even the Shakti, the mother herself, chooses to forget and not see the future and the past. She chose to remain in the present and not find out about the future because she said, I may get biased, I may change my attitude. Even Brahma's one head was cut because he could not handle knowing the future. See, knowing the present is the beauty, but past and present is not easy to handle. Then we'll mess up even our present. So there's a reason for not allowing us to know our present. But logically, if you want to find out, there are many ways which our scientists, our spiritual rishis, gods have given us the tool to validate these thoughts. That is it true that in the past I did something and happened? In today's terminology, you have past life regression theory, hypnotherapy. You do that and you will see something in the past. Now, because it is known in a very nice terminology today, we accept it. But when our rishis told us that they can go in meditation and know everything, I don't know why we have this doubt. Hypnotherapist, somebody has to come and do that to my brain. But if I do it myself, that is called meditation, that is dhyan. So what is wrong in this philosophy? It is beautiful. So there are ways to find our past. There is Nadi Shastra, there is astrology. There are so many sciences which can take us to realize what is the consequence. But the beauty of karmic theory is that looking at the present itself, it can indicate what I must have done in the past. And analyzing my present attitude and lifestyle can very well map out what will be my future. So who should I really depend my life on? Should I depend on some hypnotherapist? Should I depend on some unknown factor of past and future? Or should I depend on my own karma? The way I am born, the way I live, the way I am conducting will automatically tell me that where I am coming from and where I am heading to. And to guide that, I need a guru. So the karmic philosophy's karma theory actually helps us, avoids us from false gurus, from false notions, and unnecessary giving us headache. So in that context, I would suggest that just follow that. And how do we overcome is, as I was telling you last time, it's only 15% of our whole persona that is controlled through the past vasanas or imprints, as we call it. So 85% we still have to play with. So how do we overcome that 15? Is keep positive attitude, positive thoughts, and positive work, service activities, or whatever you want to call them. And that way, when my 85% becomes stronger, my 15 negative percent will disappear. So that is how we will go about it. Okay, let me call. I have Sister Falguni here. Falguni, are you ready? Please join me.
Yes.
Hi, Falguni.
Hello.
She joins us from America. She's in Florida. So, Falguni, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Brother Avi, for allowing me to be here. I love this subject. I think it's so relevant in everything that you said. It helps move through life if we understand that we surrender. I look at it as a surrender. When we talk about karma, and if we know that because of our past, we are here, and whatever we've done, this is what our life is, we can make adjustments in our thoughts. For instance, if we have a job or a position that we think that we're qualified for, and we see someone else getting it, do we look that as okay, that was my karma, and at this point I don't deserve it, or I don't need it because there's something else waiting? Or do we say, no, that this isn't right? But from what you just said, it seems like, okay, maybe perhaps I need to just hold off and let it go.
I know it's a very tricky scenario. If you say that you don't want to fight it out and you don't want to work it, so it looks like as if you have been passive and the people can just walk over you. Right. So I think that is a fear, right?
Right.
Yeah. See, from purely sharing from the perspective of karmic theory, what it says is, again, the whole impact is that don't look at the output, and don't let the output of the action determine the way you should act.
Okay.
Okay. So just keep that as a kind of a formula in life. So whatever the output, it does not, or it should not change the way I act. So my delivery or my contribution will always be at the best, my best. I'm not comparing with anybody. See, whatever I am able to do, I will do it. Now, whether output comes or not, that is different story. See, that is where Nishkam Karma and the philosophy of Gita, everything joins in there. Because the whole idea is that we get stuck with the output. We start determining that should I act because of the output? And that is where the trap comes. So look at your scenario in which you say that, you are qualified, but somebody else gets it. So which means, again, you are qualified is a relative statement. When you say I'm qualified, it is only because of comparison to somebody. You are saying, okay, I'm more qualified than him, or I'm more experienced than that person. Output, what you have delivered output is not based on your qualification. Your output is what you're expecting, that if I am qualified, I must get the promotion. Was that the reason for your working? No. But that was an expected outcome you wanted. See, that
Right.
outcome is disturbing the whole joy of living and working together. But yes, somebody getting it hurts as a human being because we are attached. But from the karmic philosophy, if you look at it, you can work harder, if I may put it in that tone. You may, okay, say, okay, doesn't matter. I will, pursue further. I'll keep working. And if I feel like, from practical perspective, if I feel I'm not being respected, then I may change. Who is stopping me from that? Because the ultimate pleasure of working is that I should be happy in working. But if I'm not happy in working, I should change. If I can't change, if I can't grow, and I only complain that I'm not getting promotion, and I have a notion in my head that I'm more qualified just because I've spent more number of years in one position, don't you think now that there is some flaw in somewhere? So the point is, if you cannot change the scenario, at least you control yourself. But do you have the guts and the confidence to change the way? And okay,
Right.
sir, you didn't respect me, no hard feelings. I move.
Right.
You found somebody better, good for you. But can we do it? But without having any grudge against the person who did not promote me.
Right.
Because promotion, if you look at it that way also, that is again my karma. That is again my destiny. If I am supposed to get it, sometimes you don't even put effort, we get results. You would have seen many people who put little bit of effort and they just, like, the result showers on them.
Yeah.
And some people keep slogging, keep working hard, but nothing seems to be working. At the end, they get the same salary and nothing much, and they are still struggling. So you can see the contrast in everything in life. So it's very easy from karmic perspective to understand that I don't control the output.
Right.
Karmanye vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. I don't control the output. But what I control is my action. And I am determined to be happy all the time. So I am working with happiness. But if my happiness gets disturbed because I'm not getting the due, then I change. But in under no circumstances do I go against the system, do I start revolting, or do I start taking revenge or undermining somebody. Because I have no business to tell he's not qualified than me. If you really talk to people, everybody thinks their boss is not qualified. 90% of people will tell you, my boss is not qualified to be my
Not
boss.
covered.
I know better than him. He forgets that he's also boss of somebody and who thinks the same about him also. So it's a very beautiful journey in professional life. Every one of us thinks that my boss is by default reached there, he's lucky. Otherwise, he should not be there. But we forget that he is there for a reason, whatever may be the reason. And we are here under him for a reason, from a spiritual perspective also and from materialistic perspective also. There's a reason. Either I'm not following that trend or I'm not following the spiritual trend. So I have to be under him to either learn patience, tolerance, acceptance, or I have to learn how to butter, how to move forward. So either way, so karmic philosophies keep you very neat and clean. It does not allow you to jump into an arena of revenge, of reaction with the vengeance. All that disappears. The bottom line is, I want to be happy, and I can't help but work. I can't help but give my best. My best. My best could be worst for you. That's okay. But that is my best. If you don't like it, hard luck. You understand? So that is not my comparison. Again, the output does not determine my action. So I hope that should help.
Yes. Thank you.
You had another flavor, right? You want to talk about something else?
Uh, well, if we talk about not looking for the outcome and doing our best, then there is the aspect of our duty in society as well. Um, there is so much social injustice as well, especially in this country in U.S. right now. There is a lot of inequality there as well. Of a certain demographics of people are not being treated as fairly as others. So, and that comes even in our culture. I know growing up that working, same thing, working in trying to get a position, you may not be qualified as someone else. And so right now, just general inequality for a certain demographic people, what is our responsibility as a citizen? Is there
Yes,
a responsibility
see,
that's karmically?
yes, there is. If you look at it, we have an individual role to play. We
Mm-hmm.
have a role in the society also, and we also have a role for the nation.
Right.
So, from the karmic philosophy, what we understand is that the nation always takes precedence. The way it is explained that I am the last. So, more than me is my family. A family
Mm-hmm.
can be sacrificed for the society, a society for the nation, and nation for the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you look at that format, that is how the karmic philosophy also works for us. So, if there is a cause, that's how the nations fight their independence wars. So, if there is a cause which is really helping for the masses, which is truly in that sense of bringing a peace, then that cause is very important. But how do you join the cause is again an independent decision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just because somebody is shouting that there is no water in Africa, for example, I just can't come out in Toronto and start raising flags. So does that make a difference? Yes, then I should, if it makes a difference. But then I must believe in it,
Mm-hmm.
that so much I should believe that my life in any part of the world should at least contribute there. There are a million things happening in this world which are unfair, which appears to be very no anti-national, anti-human.
Mm-hmm.
But do we get impacted by all of them?
No.
If I am so become so like broad-minded and uh, like encompassing everything, then I should feel for everybody. But I don't, which means that mine is also depending on so many factors. I have still not become that broad minded in which I encompass and embrace the whole world. So I am also very selective. And that selective reason is because of my exposure, because of my environment.
Mm-hmm.
So they are not pure in that approach that we can start up and going and joining things. But yes, if I believe in a cause, so in my limited manner, if I can contribute, I must. But again, there are so many criterias to follow. That is there any selfish end to it? Is my understanding clear that it brings benefit to the larger masses? So who will evaluate it?
Mm-hmm.
Today, blind is leading blind. So it is very difficult for anybody to say, I know what I'm doing. But everybody will tell you that I know what I'm doing. Even a terrorist putting a bomb in his chest thinks he's doing the best. So how do you identify that? And the criteria which is given from law of karmic perspective is the peace factor. So does your action ultimately bring a world peace? If you're talking from the perspective of nation, if you're talking in the perspective of home, then does it bring peace in the family? Or is somebody getting hurt or somebody is not happy because of your action? So if you
Mm-hmm.
really look at it from that perspective, peace is the biggest indicator whether your action is right or not. And that peace will not bring fear, mind that. It is not a fear of peace, it is the peace of
Mm-hmm.
strength. So you will feel comfortable and you sleep like a baby. But if you cannot feel the peace and cannot sleep at night, then the action is certainly not right. If you sleep with a gun on your next to you and you wake up with every jerk, what kind of war you are fighting? So the point again is, that is where the criteria is very simple in action to judge, is peace. And that will bring in everything else. So you start with love, you act in the righteous manner, and ultimately you must experience peace. And that peace has to be for everybody, not for your selective people. If that ends in peace, then you are done. Then you are right. So these are the evaluations. Let me bring in Rakesh. Brother Rakesh is here, and I think he had a similar kind of thoughts. Ram Rakesh, welcome.
Sairam, namaste. Thank you, Abhi. Thank you, Fal. Abhi, thank you so much for expanding on this very difficult and I would say probably the most complicated topic, I think, in spirituality.
It is, certainly.
But it's an important one all the same. And so thank you for your sharing all your wisdom and also for the service you're offering us. Opportunity.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
So I guess, we are all somewhere in this journey. And, one question that I've developed over more recently, of course, you have explained also that karma is like the law of intent. But in my view, I think over a period of time, I'm understanding that there are three aspects to this. This is just coming from within, but because we are sentient beings, we are placed in this world and we are acting, interacting, and we are learning also. So, for example, there's a beautiful question here. I hope you will address that. Do children carry karma because they are innocent souls? So you hopefully address that. But that's important to the point where if you don't care about the outcome, yes, you should not care about the outcome or the fruit. You have to act with a good sense from the inside and do the right action. So those are the two aspects. One is, what intent do you have behind your action? Is the action good? But I think the third aspect, which comes naturally because we are doing this out of love for the other person. So if the other person is not receiving it in the right way, is how is it being received? So let me give you one analogy, for example. So let's say that we've had this tremendous problem of these fires in California, for example. And so let's say that in order to manage the forest, person says, I am going to burn up a regulated strip so that fire will not go from one side to the other. But in the process of doing so, unfortunate, the fire, it just goes across and creates havoc. So the person's intentions were good to create a controlled path. They were acting well, but the consequence, unfortunately, went away. So this is to kind of to nature, but it could also be between a teacher and a student, or a supervisor and an employee. So, for example, a supervisor, an annual review, out of the best of interest of helping the employee, says you need to improve in the following areas, right? So the intent is good. They want the person to improve. They are trying to convey it lovingly, hopefully, but it's how the person receives it. So if we don't know what ego disposition they are coming from, and so if they get offended, that is who was responsible for that. So my question to you, Brother Abhi, and I'm certainly, very genuinely asking this, that it seems like you while you don't care about the consequence, but you still have to care about what you did and how it was received and how you would improve on that. Because if we are never looking at how people are receiving it, or how I did the forest fire situation, I will never improve as an individual. So,
Yes,
anyway,
agreed.
thank you.
If you look at the same scenario from a surgeon's perspective, for example,
Yes, sir.
surgeon operating, he operates, say, 100 patients and one or two die, can't make it. So do you hold the surgeon responsible, or does surgeon have a consequence of a death on his shoulders? I don't think so. So see, from that perspective of law of karma, if I look at it, whether the patient survives or not, whether the fire in the forest damages people or not, that is an output, which I am not, my action does not depend on that. So when a person goes to safeguard people or try to put a blockade or whatever to stop the fire from spreading, did I do that job perfectly? That is the only thing in my hand. As that person, my only the ability in my hand is that if I have some tools, if I have some ability, am I doing the best I could to contain the fire? Now if that ability or that whatever effort I have put in is not sufficient, and the fire jumps or whatever happens and people get hurt, that consequence is not mine. Do you see the difference? So from the law of karma perspective, I would say employee is not responsible for the, as a law of karma, for the damages which the fire has done, if he in his heart can validate and say, I did my best. He can feel pain, he can see the suffering, and he is human to feel the pain of others when you see them suffering and lose something. But that does not trap him in that sequence. And but what catches him in law of karma is that I did that, I saved them, or I could not save them. See, that expression is the trap. So law of karma allows you to think. That is why we have this technique of, when the Krishna teaches you that beautiful philosophy, that whatever you do, offer it to God. So that is a starting point of surrender, as Falguni was mentioning the first word, surrender. See, the whole concept kicks in from that point of how do I change the working into a selfless work. So if I don't know the concept of surrender, if I don't understand, at least I can say, okay, Lord, I'm doing my best, take care. So then I go, whatever happens is already passed on. But right now, if I go and say, I am doing my best, or I'm sorry I could not help you, even if I tried, I am facing the consequence of my action. The action of trying to help. So somebody will also try to help me tomorrow. A joy of saving is my consequence of action. That I have experienced the joy of saving, so I have to face the consequence of that joy. So anything good or anything unpleasant, both comes back. So if I help you and I think that I have helped you, then I must get the help back. So for getting help back, I must be born again to receive the help from you, period. So I cannot escape, whether right or wrong. So if I feel that I'm going to help people, then be ready to receive the help also. So that is why it said it's a trap. And that is why my master is to teach us that it is like, you're using one thorn to remove another thorn. But once you have removed the thorn, then you don't keep this thorn, you throw this also. So you may use the good act to negate the bad acts or wrong acts. But once you have negated it, then you have to even give up the good act. So there has to be a stage in karma wherein the concept or the debate of good and bad disappears. Things are as it is. A thorn is not bad and a flower is not good. Thorn is thorn and flower is flower. Day is not good and night is not bad. Night is night and day is day. There's nothing good or bad about it. The good and bad is a relative terminology which traps us into karma. So as long as I think I'm doing good or I'm getting bad, I am still trapped in the karmic philosophy. Can't help it. So ultimately, the stepping stone is this only, that we use the good to negate the bad. But the goal is even to lose the concept of good and bad, and then just be as we are. And that is the first question which I had come to, that let the life flow. Why to interpret that sattva is good and tamas is bad? That is a horrible definition. And then we say Lord Shiva represents tamas. So how can Lord Shiva be wrong? So the problem is in our interpretation, because we are looking at journey of life. In that journey, the kindergarten has a role. And but once we come to the, say, a postgraduate level, we can't say kindergarten is foolish. Oh, he's teaching me A is pronounced as A. That is stupid. Why should he talk about it? But at that age, it was required. But if I hold on to that is apple, then I have a problem, not the process. So similarly, in the law of karmic theory, if you look at it, the result is certainly first has to be deleted, then good action and bad action, then ethical and non-ethical. So we use good and ethical to fight non-ethical and bad. Then ultimately we give up this good and ethical also, because then nothing matters. Because when I'm flowing with the trigunas, the ability to move in life, then there is no question of good and bad. How can I say growing of the hair is bad and cutting is wrong? There's nothing right or wrong. There it is as it is. I just can't, you cannot label anything good. But initially we may need to label. Just to learn how to walk, I need a stick. I may need a tripod to walk. But once I am walking, I don't need it. If person still carries it, something is wrong. So I cannot say the tripod is bad, but it is required at that age. So I may need a thorn to remove another thorn, but ultimately I have to give up the thorn. So today I may teach my child what is good and what is not good, but tomorrow ultimately I have to teach him that, beta, everything is life. From one perspective it looks good, another perspective it may not look good. So you have to find your perspective and live in the flow of God. Am I making sense, brother?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. I hope it helped others as well.
Yes, sure.
So
That's the beauty of talking in generic, platforms, so that people can. As you were mentioning, there is a very nice thing. Do the children get impacted? They said, what is the question? Do children carry karma as a innocent? Actually, scriptures have a very good answer for it. They say there are three people who are exempted from karmic obligations. One, child, as long as he is innocent and he does not take his own decisions. So the moment your children start telling that, I know what I'm doing, dad, tell them, baby, you're ready to take the consequence of your action. So the moment they say, I know what I'm doing, done, their life starts. So one is a child who is exempted, innocent. That innocence is the word there. Second is sages, rishis, who have already renounced the world. I was talking about Jivan Muktas and saints who have left the world and who are living for others. Such people don't have consequence of karma. And the third are mentally retarded, who don't have control over their senses. So if you are any of those three categories, the scripture says you are exempted from karma. If a mentally retarded person comes and slaps you just can't slap him back. Poor fellow does not know what he's doing. Similarly, a child can do that, and you don't slap the child back because they don't know what they're doing. But other than these three, they're saying, welcome. you are ready to face the consequences.
So, brother, there's another question similar to what, taking off from what you just said. The question is Jivan Mukta a permanent state, during their sojourn, or is it possible for somebody to actually flip back and again start getting bound? Maybe that's what the nature of the question was.
Well, I'm not Jivan Mukta yet, so I can't say it with that authority. But what I have read and what I have understood, it is like a river merging into ocean, then the river can't come back and flow like a river again. So once you have tasted, you are done. So Jivan Muktas don't revert back, but they do come back in lives for the welfare and upliftment of others. So they take up responsibilities, roles, but because they come back with that attitude of total detachment for themselves, they don't live for themselves. Hence, they are not bound by any actions which happens through their body. So they are not supposed to be bound in that manner. Yes, Falguni, you
So
wanted to say something?
yeah, so what I would, based on what you said, it's our minds. Basically, everyone who has control of the mind create karmas because we think that we are these individual beings performing actions. So how do we, question is, how do we break this cycle and not create any more karma through the day? In general, as we're performing, is there a process or tool or something that we can apply?
See, that is the whole Bhagavad Gita is that only. The whole philosophy of karma is exactly that. That first you have to understand there is law of karma. Because
Right.
people first they have a problem in that itself. So people
Right.
must first acknowledge that we are based on our karmas. That is
Right.
your third law of Newton's law. Every
Yeah.
action has equal and opposite reaction. So
Right.
first we have to accept that there is law of karma which works.
Yep.
Then second is what is karma and how do I delete from myself, and that is where nishkam karma concept comes. That the moment I start detaching myself from the consequence of my action, when my actions do not depend on the result, I start deleting. So the moment I am able to, and that is for that, there is a step. So the steps, as the spirituality, what we call sadhanas, it says that first you say, okay, Lord, you have given me the ability, I offer it to you. So you get up in the morning and say, okay, Lord, I am going. Now, whatever happens, take care. Then you come back at night and say, okay, Lord, whatever happened, I offer it
I
to you.
offer
Let
it
me
to you.
sleep. So you start at least giving away the ownership.
Ownership.
At least now you're giving away the ability to determine what the consequences are on me. So I don't know what I did, good or bad. You take care. So I'm trying to consciously dump my
Right.
output to him.
Right.
Correct? That is the first stage. And when you start doing that, hopefully sooner we start experiencing that who am I offering? Like Bhagwan Baba used to tell us in a very beautiful manner that you stand in the river, you pick up the water from the river and offer it back to the river. So what did you give it to river? You gave nothing actually, but just the feeling that I'm offering Suryo Nama, Suryobhyo Nama, I'm offering the same water to the water. So basically, in karmic philosophy, then you start realizing that it is so foolish that I'm saying, Lord, that I am offering to you. Am I really capable to offer? And when you start introspecting, then you realize that you can't even control even a second of your life. I don't know what will happen to me next moment of my life. Then how can I commit to you and say, Falguni, I'll see you tomorrow? See, what an arrogant statement it comes from me when I say, okay, let's plan for next year. Which world are we? We don't know. How many of us would have planned great things before COVID started? And God did one tuck COVID and everybody is sitting at home. So we can't control even a second of our life and we are fantasizing about planning the future. So when you get into this kind of format of living and introspecting constantly, then a stage will come when we will hopefully realize that there's nothing to offer and there is nothing to give because everything is really controlled by him. And I must do my best. Then afterwards, I'll realize that it's not doing my best because everything I do should be my best. and whatever I do, I will do my best only. So this is how we grow, and one day, hopefully, this feeling of attachment to your tongue, to your eyes, as they explained in Gita, is very beautifully explained in. I'm using Gita too much because that is a one book I find which really helps in a summation to give answers to many of these things. And Gita is, I feel, like a summation of Upanishads. So if you are reading Gita, you got to read everything else to really make sense of whatever there is written. So that is why it's a summation. So they write you very beautifully that every act you can break it down. There is, how do you control? You say control your senses. What does it mean? So in action, when we talk about, we say there is, first thing is there the object. Then second is the action per se, action, object, and the interest in the object. See, for example, you like ice cream. So your taste is one, like your thought, I want ice cream. Then ice cream per se is a second object. When you see ice cream, your mouth starts watering and you want it. Then third is the interest of ice cream, which is in your head. So even if ice cream is not visible, I tell you, Falguni, you remember that chocolate cream ice cream? And you, don't remind me. Ice cream is nowhere to be seen, but the word itself creates an image because there is an interest of ice cream in your head, and that triggers the whole action. So there are three things. So they say when you want to control, you have to start deleting these three. So the easiest deletion is I lock myself up. Right? I don't let myself go. So one day I'll start controlling. That's why people used to run away to forests to meditate. That was like locking myself out. Because if I don't see ice cream, if I don't talk about ice cream, then ice cream will not hit me. So that is deletion. Second is, okay, I can't run away to forest. I can't lock myself in the room. Then what do? At least avoid the ice cream. So wherever there's an ice cream parlor or wherever there is ice cream, don't buy, don't go to that section. If you go into the grocery store, don't walk into the aisles of ice creams. If you know there is a plaza and there's a beautiful ice cream parlor, don't walk near that. So you avoid ice cream physically. That is the second level of control. And the third is the interest of ice cream. And there you have to imitate and logically break it down as to what am I liking in ice cream? What is there? And then our scriptures also tell us that sometimes you can do that. And that is called Hatha Yoga in the style, in which you say, okay, let me eat ice cream as much as I want, and then I lose the interest in eating ice cream. But that is a dangerous one. You may get addicted to it. The second approach which they teach you in a very beautiful, and that is what the Madhyam Marg is, the middle path. In that they explain that you give an alternate to think. So if I like ice cream, instead of ice cream, now let me give you candy, or let me give you Casio, or let me give you something to entertain you. So I move away from ice cream to that. So like that, if I keep switching, then ultimately I start losing interest in everything, because now that potency to hold on to one ice cream is broken down into many. And then ultimately, if I find a hook in the permanent, something like God, then the whole thing changes. So then I know how to move my interest away from one thing to another thing. So ultimately, if I know how to hook myself to the Supreme, to myself, to inner self, to God, then the interest of the world drops. So these are three things. That is how the karmic philosophy will help you to how to negate it slowly. So the process of karma is very beautiful, and that is the way to live. Our master used to tell, there's only one law in this life. We have got full legal course for 5 years to study, but it's only one law, and that law is law of karma. If you understand law of karma, then you understand all the laws, because every law is based on this law of karma. So isn't it beautiful? So that is, so practicality also, it is very practical. It gives me a perspective to, live in the present. It gives you a strength to move without getting biased, without getting judgmental about things, and accepting everything and not blaming anybody. So we tend to move away from blame games. We tend to move away from judging people, each other, and trying to be vengeful for anybody. You just start becoming happier. So the more and more we understand law of karma, more happy and light we should feel. If you are not light-headed, light-hearted, happy, that means still the alignment has not happened. Because the alignment of law of karma is, the output is happiness. Because there is no responsibility, You are driving with full insurance. You have to worry not, because whatever you do is perfectly fine, because that's what it's supposed to be. And you will end up doing everything what is perfectly required. So that is the beauty of law of karma. Sunil Rath here mentions that making a corrupt employee caught red-handed is justified in karmic philosophy. Well, yes. When you are catching somebody, with what intent are you catching? That will determine your karma. And one who is doing corruption, he will face his own music. So again, it is with what intent are you, jumping in. So it's an intent again. It's a dissection of that intent. With what intent do I jump into a scenario? Two people are fighting, I jump in between. With what intent do I fight in? Is there anything selfish about it? If not, then be happy. But the moment you think that I have done something, I have helped to resolve that issue, you got the consequence. If you think that I have succeeded in resolving, you got the consequence. If you think you failed in resolving, you got the consequence. So going there and interfering without feeling anything and coming out without carrying any burden in your head, that is law of karma. That is karma. Otherwise, you are not in the karma philosophy, you are in action philosophy. Kritya, as we say in Sanskrit, Kritya is an act versus action, the law of karma versus act. Ashna, how do you react to situations where you lose family members from karmic point of view and find peace? Oh boy. See, the karma philosophy tells you that you found family because of your karma. You are born to a family, to a parent, because of your own deservedness or whatever karmas you have. So the kind of parents you get is based on that. So when you lose them, the losing concept itself is a body consciousness. So you don't lose, they move. The deal is done. When the give and take is over, they depart. So when they have departed, so you should not hold on to them or cry for them. How do we cry normally when somebody departs? Oh my God, what will happen to me? What will happen to his wife? What will happen to my father? So we are not crying for the departed. We are actually crying because of the attachment to the departed. Because something was missing because of him that we were getting, so we are crying. So actually, if you look at it, undercurrent of our remorse, our loss, is our selfishness and not for the broad-minded, for that person who has gone. Because he did his role beautifully. He came, he played a role with us, he gave us joy or journey, he gave us memories, and he has gone. Now we are crying because we miss him. That is different. But we should not cry because we lost some dependency, that I was dependent on him for giving me a feeling of a brotherhood or a sisterhood or a support system. Then we are trapped. So the law of karma will immediately tell you that, buddy, the family came to you as family, the souls came to you as family, and they departed because of karma. The reason of departure can be many. The interpretation of is again depending on your upbringing and your understanding. But that has got nothing to, get influenced for your journey. So your journey is to remain peace. Like a beautiful Vedic explanation is, we are like husband and wife is like a logs floating in the river, two logs together floating in the river. And after a certain time, one log will divert, stop, another log will float somewhere else. So as long as you are floating together, you may label yourself as husband and wife, brother and sister, father and child, whatever. But there will be time when one log will float in one direction, one in another. So it is nothing to, change. So equanimity, that is the beauty of karma, to understand that whatever happens is beautiful. So thank to the person who remained with me as my parent, as my brother, as my whatever, gave me that joy and experience of life as long as they were together. And then they moved on. So wish them well. That is why in our Vedic terminology, we never say rest in peace, because we are always in peace. The soul is always in peace. In Vedic terminology, the wish is always, may you attain Sadgati. Sadgati is the destination of truth, which is the final destination out of this rut of life and death. So we wish the people only that, okay, let this be your last. So that is how we in Vedic terminology, we wish each other Sadgati. We don't say rest in peace. RIP is an English version of wishing. Vedic people should not say that, because soul is always at peace. What can soul be given extra peace? So rest in peace is body. And why can't you live in peace? Why you have to wait to go to the cremation ground to feel peace? Then you will never feel the real peace. So it is like, as they say, you live in peace, not die in peace. Vibha, I should take last question. We have crossed time. So just doing karma and surrendering to the Lord go hand in hand. Surrendering, if I may put it in a broad terms, surrender and karma are not different. Surrender is a way of doing action. And the day we learn how to act with surrender, we have achieved it. So surrender is a flavor on karma, which we have to ultimately realize. And that is Jivan Mukta style of living, where every act is surrendered. Surrender is very powerful. I have already discussed that topic in my previous sessions. If you have any questions, we can. So I should thank Rakesh brother and Falguni for joining me here today. Thank you for making it interactive.
Thank you.
And thank everybody who sent their questions. And it was a joy and a pleasure. And I look forward to discussing more in case anybody has any further suggestions or any further thoughts. I welcome all of you to please continue sharing your feedbacks. And based on that, I choose my topics actually. And if you have any questions for any of our topics that we have discussed in the past, I would be more than happy to engage with people here. And once again, thank you all for joining today and making this session a very good offering. Thank you, Brother Rakesh, and thank you, Falguni, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brother. Thank you, Fal. Thank you, audience.